So apparently we have quite a dilemma on our hands. If anyone hasn't seen recently, what was trending on Netflix is a documentary called The Social Dilemma. So spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't watched it. So what it's trying to get at is that there's a lot of people who used to work for places like Facebook, all these big tech giants like Instagram, LinkedIn, all these social networks, I guess, YouTube and Google and other places. All these big former tech industry experts are kind of getting together and I guess talking about what they were creating and intending to create, but how it turned into something that they didn't intentionally create, which is basically affecting the fabric of reality itself, our relationships, our addictions, our mental health, relationships, politics, even the subject of truth. Going against it in a way, they're kind of turning the tide and trying to speak against it, speak about the negative consequences of it, which I think we're all aware of anyway. But they're just kind of heightening our perspective of it and just trying to look at it from all different angles. So I definitely highly recommend you go and watch it. I think it's very useful for us to kind of get our heads around and see where our addictions are at. But obviously we can all be addicted to our phones. We spend way too much time on our phones. But I don't want to go too much into detail. There's so much more to be said on that. But I kind of want to dig further into it, what it's, the main message that it's trying to get at. So what is the main problem? I think what it's trying to aim at is that social media is now the biggest problem in the world, and it's causing the most division, it's causing the most obscurities, it's causing the most problems for mental health, like it's the main source of basically all evil, all corruption. That's my perspective on it. I could be completely wrong, but I think that's what it's trying to get at, is that it's the main root of all the evil that goes on in the world. I personally don't think that is completely correct. I understand the perspective that they're coming from. From my perspective as being a Christian, actually the root of all evil is power, is control, is greed. And that personally comes from wanting that for ourselves. As a Christian, I believe God gave us that power and that authority, but to be used in a fruitful way, to be used in a good way that would imitate Him, that would reflect Him. I see where the social dilemma is exactly coming from, but I really don't think that the main problem is social media in and of itself. I think it's the hearts that are behind controlling it, creating all these algorithms. I think it's us as a people. It doesn't matter who's in control of social media. Even if I was in control of social media, it would end up in the same exact problem that it already is now. The solution that the social dilemma offers, obviously, is that it asks you to reduce the amount of time you spend on your phone, or if you can, delete your accounts, or maybe just to limit the amount of notifications you receive from Facebook or from Instagram. I do highly recommend that you do that, and I'm trying to do that in myself. I can get quite addicted to my phone, I can get quite addicted to social media sites. We can all be victims of that. But I do know people who don't even use social media very much at all, and you can see the high benefits of doing that. So I would leave that up to you, and for you to talk that amongst your family and amongst yourselves about how you go about doing that. The main problem is obviously introducing laws to control the data protection, control how much we're allowed to see, like advertising, media, marketing. It's basically restricting those who are in control of these algorithms, who work for these big corporations, and restricting how much we as a people can see, and making sure that all options are available to us. But it's not really a solution. It's kind of, I would say, a plaster. It's a band-aid. But as soon as you rip that band-aid off, you're still at the risk of being victimized by social media, and again you can kind of get stuck in that vicious cycle again. If we are the ones, or those who have created social media are the ones who have created it, how are we the ones that are going to be solving it? It seems a bit contradictory to me that we're the ones that have created the problem, so only we can solve it. But I don't think that's entirely true, because I think we could end up in the exact same vicious cycle that we've already ended up in. Because social media in itself was trying to solve a problem, which was revive relationships, trying to interconnect people from all over the world, build relationships. Naturally, it's done the complete opposite. It's divided relationships, it's divided families, it's divided people from opposite sides, left, right, up, down. So it's kind of done the exact opposite of what it intended. So I think even if we went with the good intentions and tried to introduce these new restrictions and stuff, it could end up an even darker level and a more consequential level than we're already seeing right now. So I think, again, as a Christian, I believe that the only solution to the problem is that someone would come in who has no ability for corruption, no ability to take that power and to use it for disastrous consequences. And for me, as a Christian, that would be the person of Jesus, because he came to earth as a perfect human being of what we were intended to be, and to free us from that corruption, free us from that greed, free us from that grasp of power, that selfishness that we so crave and so desire. We look for and we desire for some reason to want that power, to want, for our own gain, our own self-centeredness, to use it for, our own wealth or our own well-being. Very sort of inward looking, but Jesus says that we need to be loving those on the outside, loving those who don't necessarily think the same way as us on any sort of level whatsoever. And Jesus came and presented that. He came and showed how that was supposed to be done. He died the perfect death on the cross that we should have done, but he did that in our place. And then he rose again to prove that it was possible to overcome these massive issues. The biggest issue of all is physical death. He overcame physical death, but also what I would call spiritual death, in which we were so far away from God because we wanted our own, we wanted control over our own lives. We didn't want a God or whatever you want to say, control over our lives. We wanted to obey our own loves, our own desires, our own minds. Whatever we wanted, we would make happen. But God in himself has said, actually, that's not what we were created or designed for. We were created to walk in step with him, to have a relationship with him, to follow his ways. Because if you are a Christian out there and you believe that there is a God, this is the God that we're talking about, that he is perfect in all ways. There is no corruption in him. He is the greatest source of everything, that he created the whole universe, and he came in the person of Jesus. So he is perfection incarnate, basically, and he came to promise us to free us from that, so that if we believe in him, that we could experience that freedom, and we could experience that freedom now. So yeah, that is what I believe wholeheartedly as a Christian. So I personally, again, I could be completely wrong, and this is a conversation that we want to have, is that I don't think we are the solution to our own problem. I think, we have created the problems, and the only person who can solve the problems for us is the one who doesn't have any problems of his own, and cannot be corrupted by any of our problems either. And is personally been tempted by the problems that we've created, and even spiritual temptations as well, and other temptations of the sort, and actually overcame them and didn't fall short of them at all. So I personally think that is the only solution to the problems. So there is a dilemma, and that's why it's called a social dilemma, but I personally do not think that a dilemma can be solved by us. So I would invite you on this journey. I would recommend that you re-watch the social dilemma and kind of see what the ideas that they're kind of throwing out, see what other ideas that you think that they're throwing out there, and actually see how maybe there's a bit of a contradictory message going on, and see what the fault is, and whether you actually think that we can solve those problems. Yes, we can come up with solutions, but I personally don't think we can come up with them on our own. I think we need to partner with God, partner with Jesus, and figure out these solutions with him and not apart from him. So I pray and I hope that this inspires you, that this encourages you, and I hope that you might go away and think about what I've said, and maybe disagree with me wholeheartedly, and you probably will. If you do, please comment below, please message me, or even if you do completely agree with me, again, message me, comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I pray that God will keep you safe at this time, that he would bless you, that he would encourage you, that he would inspire you, provoke you, and that he would challenge you as well, and that you would engage with the culture and connect with Jesus.